Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Cara Lockwood. Cara is the USA Today bestselling author of more than 35 books, including the USA Today bestsellers The Takeover and I Do, But I Don't, which became a Lifetime original movie starring Denise Richards. Her latest book, there's no good book for this, but I wrote one anyway, The Irreverent Guide to Crushing Breast Cancer, blends memoir, humor, and practical advice for navigating diagnosis, treatment, and recovery. A breast cancer survivor, Cara endured a double mastectomy, chemotherapy, and reconstruction before going into remission in 2024. Half of all book proceeds benefit breast cancer research. A native of Texas, she lives in Chicagoland with her family and pets. Cara, with that, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. I've been looking forward to our conversation for some time now.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so very glad to be here.
I'm glad that you're here as well. And I forgot how we connected. I think somebody reached out to me on your behalf.
Yes, I think so. Maybe some publicists at Wasabi maybe reached out. They do great work.
They do, and their pitch was very impressive, and I did my own due diligence, checked out your work, and got back to them and said, yeah, if Cara's interested in doing an introductory call, and from there scheduling a podcast, we're good to go, and we were good on both counts.
Wonderful. And here we are.
Here we are.
It's Kismet.
That's right. Kismet, serendipity, synchronicity,
That's right.
However you want to classify it. But
Exactly.
Anyway, Cara, I know you've written more than 35 books, from rom-coms to young adult fiction. How does one go from meet cutes and happy endings to double mastectomies and chemo and still keep it funny?
Yeah, it was a journey. It was definitely a journey. I think when I got the diagnosis in late fall of 2023, really threw me for a loop. I was working on a book that would become the USA Today bestseller, The Takeover. And I had my life planned. I have kids. I have a dog. It's very busy. I don't have time for chemotherapy and multiple doctor's appointments. And honestly, the time to face death, which is sort of what a cancer diagnosis is. I had just turned 50, and it was sort of like, hello, mortality. And hi, I'm mortality. Nice to meet you. You may have thought of me in passing, but actually, I'm really right here on your doorstep now. It was quite a loop, was a journey to get to a place where I could find things funny, where I could be salty and sarcastic, but also hopeful at the same time, which I sort of feel like is a secret weapon when fighting cancer. It just really was all about the journaling throughout the process of getting all my feelings out and getting some perspective. I don't know how you feel about journaling or if you journal, but for me, it was just a way to just pour out all my emotions in a safe space, right on the page. That's how I've always felt about writing. And when it came to something so personal like breast cancer, it was just a lifeline for me. And I really took those pages and turned them into the memoir. There's no good book for this. So something good came out of it anyway.
So I've read parts of your book, and it's got great practical tips. It's funny. It's raw, it's honest. It's like we're in the moment with you as you're going through your cancer diagnosis. I think any time that you can feel a part of the story without knowing the protagonist or knowing the main characters, that is the sign of a very powerful, very impactful, and very relatable book.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I really tried to make it as real as possible. Everything in the book really happened. All the feelings I felt, I really felt. I think when it comes to real struggles like breast cancer, I think most of us that don't deal with a serious health issue sort of feel like, oh, those people are so brave. Like, I don't know how they do that. Like, I probably couldn't do that. But everyone has it in them to rise to an occasion. And I think for me, the important part of writing this book was sort of to show people you can be human, you can be scared, you can be angry, you can be all the things that we humans feel when we're dealt sort of a bad hand by fate and still rise to the occasion. Like, how do you find the stamina? How do you find, the courage to go to the biopsy? Like, all of these things take a lot of inner reserve. And I think anyone can do it. I think we just sort of put other people in a different category than us. Like, oh, they're heroes, or they're really brave, or wow, they really went through a lot. I don't think I could do that, but everyone can. I think it's just a matter of getting perspective and putting one foot in front of the other every day. It's not something superhuman. You don't have to be exposed to gamma rays in a lab to become a superhero. You can do it just at home on your couch.
Absolutely. And I think every one of us has the capability to develop resilience regardless of the challenge. And I think one of the
Mhm.
things I think we tend to overlook here is that we all have dealt with other challenges before.
Yeah.
It's just when our biggest challenges come, we lose sight of the fact that we probably had skills that we've used and negotiated before to navigate other challenges that can be helpful in our current challenge. And you also mentioned journaling. I'm a big advocate for journaling, whether it's an audio journal, whether it's a written journal. It's a way to get your feelings out in the moment. It's a way to track progress over time. And particularly if you don't have access to a human support group, your journal becomes your support mechanism.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there is really no safer space than a journal. You know? It doesn't judge you. It's a blank page, or it's the recording device on your phone. It is a way to work out some pretty complex emotions, because I think for most of us going through something difficult, it's hard to see what's really bothering us because everything seems to sort of hit at the same time. You can be scared and angry at the same time, and you don't know why. And talking through those feelings, I am a big advocate of counseling. I'm a big advocate of group therapy, or, a supportive group of people that you can reach out to, sort of people who might be on a different part of the same journey you're on, that can show you either what's ahead of you, or you can turn around and help someone from behind. That also helps a lot to know how far you've already come. But you're so right in that getting those feelings out is really a part of processing what's happening to you. Because I think for people that don't acknowledge the feelings, either in a journal or to a friend or to a counselor or to a support group, feelings don't go away as hard as we push them down. And in fact, the harder we push them down, the more they come up in inconvenient ways all the time. I don't know if you found that in your experience.
Well, one of the things I use with my students at Utica University, and I got this from a book by the late Debbie Ford called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers.
Hmm.
There's this like exercise that she suggested, and it's like take a beach ball and write your either greatest fear on it or write
Mm.
an emotion.
Mm.
So let's say we're talking about anger, which is one of the emotions that individuals who are diagnosed with a terminal illness go through.
Sure.
So you,
Absolutely.
so you put anger on that beach ball and suppress it in a tub of water. So
Yeah.
you suppress it long enough,
Yeah.
kind of feels good for a bit, but the minute you let up on that ball a little bit,
Hmm.
comes back up. So then you get all of your friends, all of your
Yeah.
relatives, all of your relations who want to help you suppress your anger because all they want is for you to be happy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
press down on that anger. And for a while, it feels good. And then I'm going to say, well, now maybe it's time to let up on the ball.
Yeah.
The ball comes back. So what's the message? The message is, look, your anger isn't going away. Let,
No.
let, let me put you in a position where you're making friends with your anger. Learn from your anger because it's not going away. And the more you try to
Yeah.
suppress it, the more you try to suppress it, the worse it gets. It just comes back like a tsunami.
Exactly. And what's so interesting is that I feel we spend a lot of time. I know I did this after the diagnosis, just reeling and then worried about, yeah, how are my friends and family? I have to put on a nice face for them. I have to be brave. I can't be very angry, or I can't be very sad, or I have to be like, don't worry, guys, everything's going to be fine. But it's true that you really do have to express those feelings. And I think many of us carry a fear of what happens when we're angry. And I think it's a myth or a false belief that we think that we're going to be angry. And so we're going to turn into the Hulk and we're just going to be this green monster running around forever. We're just going to be angry now. Anger, actually, it's like a little release valve too. And sometimes just a very brief acknowledgement, I am angry. And it can be like a few minutes of just being angry. And then you're not angry. The steam has left for a little while. The kettle has boiled and, steam has come out. And so there's not as much pressure inside on that ball. It's bouncing on the surface and
Yep.
it's less scary than it used to be. So I think we spend a lot of time worried about what other people are going to think, worried about what other people are going to think of us if we're angry or we're not perfect. But we're all humans. And I think we just need to give ourselves some grace to be human and be messy. We're messy and it's okay. And if you do something as the Hulk that you regret, there's a beautiful thing called repair that you can do later when you're calm. If you snap at someone at work or someone at home, there's a beautiful thing called repair that you can do later. Part of it is just acknowledging, if you just name your feeling, it takes a lot of the energy out of it.
Yeah. What you name no longer has a hold on you. That fear kind of dissipates.
Yes. 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 It's the monster under your bed or, any kind of horror movie. It's always scarier when you don't see the monster,
right.
and once you name the monster and you see the monster, then it's like, oh, that guy's in a rubber mask. Like, that's not that scary.
Yeah, it's not as bad as we anticipated, and sometimes our own worst enemy lies between our two ears in terms of the things that we tell ourselves. And
Yes.
I can't take credit for that quote. I found that I meme on Facebook.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. That's perfect because we do tell ourselves all kinds of lies. I actually, in the book, talk about fear being one of the biggest lies. Fear lies to us all the time. I mean, fear is a wonderful emotion because it's kept us alive for, generations of humans. If we didn't have fear, we would all be eaten by saber-toothed tigers and wouldn't be here. Fear is a survival tool, but fear is also a little dramatic, and fear goes to the worst case scenario all the time. So it spreads little lies. It says the chemotherapy will make you so sick, you wish you didn't have it. It says you can't tell people that you're sick because then they'll think you're weak. It tells you all kinds of lies that simply aren't true. Like sometimes you have to argue with the fear in your head a little. You acknowledge it. This is fear. And then you have to say, wait, what are you telling me? Is this true? Or is this just an exaggeration of, some projection that I have on the inside?
Mhm. Can you see fear and anger as being superpowers for individuals who are going through cancer treatment?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they can be very healthy on this journey when used in the right way. Um, Anger actually can be a safe place to put fear. Sometimes when we're very, very afraid, it can be paralyzing. Anger can get us up on our feet. Like, there have been plenty of times during my cancer journey where I was like, I'm done. I am done being pushed around by cancer. I am so mad. It's not going to take another second from me. Like, I'm going to fight it with everything I have. And I'm very angry. It's, I quote Al Capone in the Untouchables movie where he was like, I sort of felt like cancer, like I want him dead. I want his whole family dead. I want him, his house burned to the ground. Like, I just want it completely eradicated. And that was powerful. It was a powerful activating force. Fear can also be, a motivator. If when acknowledged and it doesn't, and you move past the paralysis of fear, fear can show you what you value, what you care about, what you're afraid of losing, you know? And if you focus on the things that are important to you in your life, it can help you dig deeper when you feel like you should give up, or you feel like you don't want to go to that doctor's appointment again. Or um, for me, when I actually had the choice to do chemotherapy or not do chemotherapy, I was sort of a borderline case where I had surgery and they got the tumor, and that was great news. And then they told me, but you really should have chemotherapy too. They said it was an insurance policy. Um, and I thought long and hard about it because I was going to lose my hair. I was going to, not feel great. I was going to have poison pumped into my arm every week. Didn't sound like a spa day ever wanted to do. But when the doctor told me, I'm like, do I have time? Can I push this off? Like, can I think about this next year, when I'm better? And she's like, no. And she said, if the cancer probably wouldn't come back, but if it did, it would be stage 4. And then if it did, I wouldn't live to see my youngest daughter graduate high school. And she was a sophomore. So to me, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't be there for her graduation in 2 years. And that fear of missing out on something I had planned since she had stepped into kindergarten that first day um, motivated me quite a lot. Like the fear of not seeing her in cap and gown, getting her diploma, got me to every single one of those chemotherapy appointments. you
Mm.
know, I was like, I am more scared of missing out on that than I am of feeling bad for a little bit of time, or losing my hair and feeling ugly for a little bit of time. Like, fear can help you stack those priorities
Mm.
in descending order. It really helps you get clarity where you may not have had it. So yes, I think they can, when acknowledged and seen and used and channeled properly, they can be superpowers for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the way you described it, they can also be gifts to us in whatever
Yeah.
journey or whatever challenges we're navigating. Because, it sounds like your anger gave you the energy to do what you needed to do to get through some tough moments. The fear of
Yes.
not seeing your daughter graduate motivated you to get to every chemo appointment,
Yes.
radiation appointment, follow-up appointment, and
Yeah.
that's when the emotions that aren't happiness, that's where the gifts lie in, as long as we use
Yes.
them to our advantage and don't allow them to debilitate us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think there is a misnomer about, like, we shouldn't. I feel like this is where toxic positivity comes in, where you can't acknowledge any bad, but acknowledging the bad, you know, really helps you get clear on what is good.
Yeah.
What brings you joy. I don't. I think there is a yin and yang to the world. So I don't think you can have, joy without sadness. Like, how would you know what's joyful if there isn't, a shadowy part of that? Like, not that we want to spend a lot of time, in painful times or sad times, but they are gifts. They can be gifts. It depends on how you look at it. Personally, I know when you're going through it, it feels like anything but a gift. And so anybody who tells you everything happens for a reason and, aren't you so lucky you're dealing with fear and anger right now because you're getting some wonderful lessons. Like, no one wants to hear that. But later you can look back, when things are calmer, when you've tackled, cancer or whatever it is you're battling, and feel some peace about that, I think. So I think you're right.
You were talking about kind of things that people say that they shouldn't say to you. So, well, what are some of the things you shouldn't say to a cancer patient?
Yeah.
What are some better things that you could say? And what was the dumbest thing that anybody ever said to you during your
Yeah.
treatment?
Yeah. Well, I have heard you have the good kind of cancer. That's not good. It's no good kind of cancer. And what they mean is you have the treatable cancer,
Mm.
or you have a lower stage of cancer, but none of it's good. None of it's great. Also, like, everything happens for a reason. whether they feel it's a higher power or whether they, just feel we all learn, that is something that could be true, but in the urgency of the moment, especially, after my diagnosis where I just felt like, why me? Like, am I being punished? What did I do? Is this an indiscretion in a past life? Did I, do I have bad karma? Did I stop going to church? Is that my problem? Like, what happened? Um, and so I had to take some time and get to the why not me. These random things happen all the time. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I, used aluminum deodorant too long. So,
I got to tell you though, ever since I read that passage in the book about using aluminum deodorant too long, I threw out all my aluminum deodorant. It's gone. So
I know, I know, I know. I mean, the really bonkers thing about cancer is that only less than a quarter of at least breast cancer cases are genetic. So 3/4 are environmental, some other combination of things we don't know yet and don't understand. So um, there's a lot of research to be done. So all we can hope is that we actually prioritize cancer research because it doesn't cancer doesn't care how much money you have or who you
no.
voted for or where you live. It can come for anyone at any time.
Yep. And it can. And when you got the news, I recall reading in the book, I think you were sitting at the kitchen table, I believe, and you had a
Hmm.
phone call. I believe it was from, I don't know, the radiologist
Yeah.
and the one thing that struck me is why would they give you that news over the phone? But when you heard the words that you had cancer, what was going through your head and when did your
Yeah.
fight response kick in?
Yeah. I was just stunned at first, just completely in shock. And I it just no matter how worried I had been, and I'd been a little worried, about I'd never had a biopsy before. And I do think every clinic does it differently. Some people call, some people have you come in. Um, but I was worried, but I wasn't really that worried. I mean, we all have a whole bunch of safe, cozy denial, a little fleece sweater of denial. Like, I'm gonna be fine. I mean, things are bad, but it's gonna come back negative. Um, so when I heard cancer, I just blanked. And I don't know if you've seen Only Murders in the Building, but I think it's the third season where Steve Martin goes into a white room when he's stressed out and like he's trying to sing a song on stage and he just blanks and he goes into a white room and everything's great in there and awful things are happening in reality, but that white room is nice and cozy and safe. And that's where I went when I heard cancer. I just heard cancer and I went into the white room. And I was on the phone and I was answering questions and saying hello, saying yes and I understand and but I wasn't really there. I was in the white room and I hung up the phone and my husband came in and he was like, "Oh gosh, was that the radiologist? What'd they say?" And I said, "Cancer." And he said, "Oh gosh, what stage? What's the next thing that happens? What, all these and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. I think he said something. I don't know. I don't remember. I was in a white room." And PJ's like, "Can we call him back?" And I said, "Yes." And so we called back and the radiologist is like, "Yeah, this happens a lot. This happens a lot. People don't process what's happening because it's so much all at once because it's mortality. It's all the worst things you've ever seen about cancer in the movies. It's the relative that didn't survive their cancer battle that's in everyone's family that you think about immediately. And then, there's everything else, health insurance. How am I going to pay for this? Like it's all at once. And it's almost impossible to process, at least for me. I had to unpack a lot of things over, a lot, basically the entire course of treatment. So, but I went into the white room several times more. It wasn't just that first time, there's multiple different news drops or dumps over the course of treatment. So, yeah, I made the white room nice and cozy. That's what happened.
Well, sometimes it's a good way to kind of like just give yourself a break from the reality of what you're
Hmm.
going through. You just check out into a happy place or a
Yeah,
place where there's just, there's nothing about cancer treatments or something about,
right.
5 year survival rates. There's nothing about any of that. You just there's kind of like a moment of peace and maybe some moments of normalcy from the madness of going through a
Yeah,
life altering diagnosis, just not only for you, but for your husband and the rest of your family going through that with you.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the whole family really goes on the journey with you. And I wasn't really aware. I mean, I knew it was stressful for everybody, but just like I was putting on a happy face, my kids were putting on a happy face, my husband was putting on a happy face. I mean, we talked about fears and frustrations as well as we could, but for the most part, there was, buffering that was
Yeah.
happening on everybody's, side. That's a lot of pressure for everyone.
Mhm.
And it was really only after I went into remission that we talked about some of the things that we didn't talk about, in the heat of everything. Um, and it was very emotional, a lot of the struggles that, my daughter had stress at school and didn't want to share it, didn't want to burden mom when she was going through all of this other stuff. And grades suffered, social life suffered. It's not something any parent wants for their kid, and I know it was an added layer of stress and pressure, being a parent and going through, cancer. I don't recommend it. 0 stars.
Yeah, I would probably give it two thumbs down if we're
2
gonna.
thumbs down.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the Siskel and Ebert rating.
Exactly, exactly.
So, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend it either. And I've been through it enough where I could tell individuals that no, I wouldn't recommend this as something you would contract for in this life. But
No.
when you think you got a plan, Kara, the universe says, "Hold my beer." The the the, the,
Exactly.
the plan has
Exactly.
changed. This is a script now. How are you
Ex
going to respond to it?
Exactly. I know because it's sort of I mean, plan A is never to get cancer. So you are already in plan B. This is
Mm,
this was never nobody ever is like, when I get cancer, this is what I'm gonna do. Like
yeah,
everyone's like, I'm not getting cancer. I want to avoid cancer. I'm gonna do everything I can not to have it. So no one really makes a plan for cancer.
no,
That's not something anybody asks for
no.
sure.
And the thing is, when I was envisioning you getting the news, I went back to kind of like Lance Armstrong's book, his Livestrong book,
Hmm.
before he fell from grace, obviously. But
Yeah.
one of the things he talked about when he found out he had a testicular cancer diagnosis, first thing that went through his head is, I'm either going to live or I'm going to die. And you don't think of treatment, you don't think of, am I going to recover? You just think this is life and death now.
It is. It is, and there are very few it's sort of like it's slow moving death too, usually, because it's not like, "Oh, I'm about to be in a car accident," you know? "This is gonna be bad." It's you have a lot of time to think about it, a lot of time to sit in that, um, you know, battle for your life, and that's a lot of stress, it's a lot of pressure, um because it is true. No matter if you have the earliest cancer diagnosis possible, um, cancer is tricky. Cancer changes all the time. You can be told it's stage 0 and then suddenly stage 2 after 3 more tests. You can fight cancer once and it comes back 3 more times. I mean, I think everyone understands it's a formidable foe and it is trying to kill you. It's no There is no in between. It's not trying to be friends. It is 100% trying to kill you.
Ab- Absolutely. I want to switch focus to your book, and for those of you who are going to be watching this on YouTube, you'll see Kara's book poster. There's no good book for this, but I wrote one anyway.
Yeah.
Very, very irreverent title. Of course, irreverence is part of the title of the book. Um, how did you come up with the title? Were you looking for any other effect besides irreverence in the title?
Yeah, I mean, after I was diagnosed, I had many well-meaning friends and relatives, that gave me books that either if they had gone through it, they had read or friends, and the books, and my doctors gave me books too. They were very serious, very medically focused. These are very important books. But I didn't find very much out there for the emotional journey of it. And I felt that that's what I struggled with the most. Like I'm not a medical doctor. Science was not my thing. I respect science, but I'm not in a lab. I write romance novels, so the technical part of both the treatment and what cancer is and how it works, um, didn't speak to me as much as like, how do I deal with this anger I've got? How do I deal with this like why me, loop in my head? How do I deal with the fear of, not just death, but also these treatments, they're going to hurt. I'll be disfigured. All of the different fears that come along, some of them serious, some of them petty, like someone's not going to like that I'm bald, I mean, there are a lot of different fears. So, I was looking for something that just showed that emotional part because when I got the diagnosis, suddenly I went from the person that was, "Oh, those people are so brave. I don't know how they do it," to, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do it." And part of it came from the fact that I felt there really wasn't a good book out there. There just really isn't, and there probably never will be the perfect book for anyone, but I tried to fill a need I saw, which was really for the emotional part of it, to make it authentic and real and accessible and not on some kind of pedestal, but somewhere that people could access and understand and feel seen and understood. So irreverence helps with that, I think, because if you can put a smile on someone's face, that's just closer to healing, I think.
Well, the other thing, I mean, and I've said this on other podcasts that I've guested on or my podcast, is we're a death avoidance society anyway. And,
Yes.
you know, talking about death isn't going to make you dead. Um,
Right.
but we have to have those really, really necessary conversations around a taboo topic. And when you can throw a little irreverence, you can throw a little
Yeah.
humor, you can
Yeah.
throw a little just relatability and just down to earth conversation, it makes a very difficult topic easier to talk about. And I think that's why I mean, a lot of other books you might see are kind of very clinical, are kind of
Mhm.
very, and practical wisdom is great, but in order to get to the practical wisdom, you have to be able to create an atmosphere where you're making it comfortable for individuals to talk about what they need the practical wisdom for.
Exactly, exactly, and you're so right. I feel like, I mean, humor is your greatest weapon, you know? If you're laughing at something, if you think something's sarcastic or wry, it's less scary. Fear is so very serious, so if you're laughing at it a little bit, then, you know, I think this is where gallows humor comes into it shines. It shines. I mean, it's hard to be so scared of death if you're laughing,
That's right.
or smiling. I mean,
That's,
yeah.
yeah. And I was an addictions counselor for 27 years, and you want to talk about gallows humor and dark humor. I
Mhm.
mean, we saw Kara so many horrendous stories, so many
Yeah.
difficult backgrounds that individuals came from, that if we didn't laugh, we would have cried,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And, you need to that kind of break to kind of get you to the next tough moment. You need to have that. Like you mentioned the yin and the yang. You
Mhm.
can't have all darkness without some lightness, and they both
Yeah.
coexist to help us get through what we need to get through.
Exactly, exactly. And I think fear can kind of hijack your brain, so, if you laugh and relax, then your logical brain can kick back on, you know? You sorta need that logic to understand the humor that's happening. So then
Mhm.
when the logical brain's back on, you're like, "Oh, okay, alright. I'm not dying right now. Something terrible isn't happening right now." Like,
Mhm.
I'm in a place where I can actually make a joke about it, and I think sometimes, especially when we're going through something difficult like cancer, I think part of it too is giving ourselves permission to find things funny because, it's not like we should all be all serious and buttoned up all the time. Like, it's okay to laugh. It's okay, especially to laugh. I laughed at myself all the time at, when, mishaps happened at appointments and silly things happen or absurd things happened, Laughing is a great weapon against cancer or any obstacle in your life.
Absolutely. I noticed too that every chapter ends with a pep talk.
Yeah.
So what are the power of words when it helps individuals who are going through cancer treatment?
Yeah, I think they're so powerful. I think I briefly did little league soccer, when I was a kid, and I was on the tennis team in high school. And when we're on teams, we get a lot of pep talks, from coaches, at pivotal games and pivotal times. And I feel we all need more pep talks. We just need more pep talks. We need more people to tell us, you can do this. It's hard, but you can do hard things and you can do this. I think having somebody just that feels in your corner, that tells you it's hard, understands where you are, but also says, you got this. Like, yeah, I know you don't feel like you do, but just one step at a time, and then you're going to climb that mountain. I think we could all do with more pep talks. They're so powerful. I think words can make the difference, really. I mean, just a little, um, uh, I can think of, just if you're out and a stranger does something or says something nice to you, how it can boost your entire day.
Mm.
Words are incredibly powerful when it comes to focusing us, giving us encouragement. I think we all should get pep talks every day.
I think so too, because sometimes, I think as part of the human experience, we question whether what we're doing really does matter. And
Hmm.
we go through those phases. And then
Sure.
all of a sudden you get a note, you get a letter from somebody, or you get an email from somebody saying what a difference you made in their lives. But I think it's important that we just should go around. I think we ought to just spend one day just being nice to everybody. You know,
Yes.
just
Yes.
well, not one day a month, not have National Nice Day, but do
Yeah.
that every day, where we just
Yeah.
go out of our way to say something nice to somebody who may be struggling.
Absolutely. And you know what's amazing about kindness and giving and doing nice things for others is there is something called the helper's high. So, like when you do something nice, make them dinner when they're sick, or send them a nice note, or say something nice to a stranger, or help a stranger. There's a little reward center in our brain that kicks in that gives us a little boost because we feel good about that. We
Hmm.
feel good about ourselves when we do something nice. So actually, it could be a very selfish thing to be kind to everyone all day. You're just going to ride that helper's high all the way to sunset.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it could just be the littlest things like saying, "I'm glad," somebody's saying, "I'm glad you're in my life," and that's all it
Yeah.
takes to get you
Yes.
out of whatever funk you're in and realize that, yeah, I am making a difference. So now it's time for me to re-engage in the human race. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if you just think about your own life and how much of a difference that makes for you, you can see the impact you're making on others.
yeah, there's one statement I want you to. I found this in chapter 11 in your book, and I kind of smiled when I saw this. I just want to read it to you, and just
Mm.
first thing that comes into your head, just tell our audience. This is in chapter 11 of your book. You can lose your boobs without losing yourself.
Yes. Yes, you can. So this is a big part of breast cancer, I think, for many women that are unfortunately in this terrible club with the best members. There's so much of your identity and gender identity wrapped up in your body. And I had a double mastectomy and then reconstruction surgery, but there was a lot of difficult transformations that I just had to make physically that affected how I felt about myself. I think I'm still working through, a lot of those issues. They don't go away overnight. I'm more at peace than I was, but it's sort of like a adolescence is such a difficult time for many people because their body is changing. But when it comes to a double mastectomy, it is instantaneous and painful and terrifying, all at once. And the reconstruction doesn't happen right away, so there's a long process. It's weeks, and in my case, months before from no boobs to reconstructed ones. And it is a journey. Like it's partly I had a wonderful counselor, so I talked a lot about body image and had to kind of dissect what my feeling of who am I? My gender identity? What does it mean to be a woman? Is it just your body? Is it something else? How do I feel about myself? I think ultimately it can, with the right kind of therapy and the right thinking, lead to a healthier identity. Because I think whether we like it or not, a lot of our feelings are wrapped up in our physical body about who
Yeah.
we are. And the body is going to change and age and degrade over time anyway. It's not going to be a constant for us, but things like I'm a caring parent or a good friend or a creative writer or a hard worker or I'm a gardener and love growing things. Those kind of identity markers can be more powerful and more satisfactory over the long haul so that you can kind of being forced to deal with your body as part of your identity and maybe disconnecting from that a little more than you would normally can ultimately be healthy for you. I mean, it seems
Mhm.
like that's impossible. How can that happen? But I really had to start thinking of myself in terms of my core human qualities that didn't have much to do with the body I'm walking around in. I mean, I still love my body. I'm still very, grateful for my body. Um, but it's not as front and center, for
Yeah.
who I think I am.
Well, if you take a look at some other individuals who have studied spirituality, they'll just tell you
Mhm.
the body is just a conduit
Yeah.
for higher knowledge and
Yeah.
for, showing individuals our true inner beauty. So, but
Mhm.
we've been such an image conscious society. I think particularly for young females, it's been
Yes.
impressed and thin as in
Yes.
and appearance,
Yes.
and if they internalize that, depending on what other dynamics they got going on in their home, that's a kind of a formula for eating disorders, anorexia,
Oh,
bulimia,
sure.
anything.
Sure.
And there's a lot of young female adolescents who struggle with that because they hear that appearance is everything and that body image is everything.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I unfortunately, all the social media, everything is just really putting, appearance first, how people look, and there's not a lot of, "I have integrity,"
Yeah.
trending on right? Oh, what's on TikTok? Oh, integrity reels, like, that's
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not going to learn about the history of the world on TikTok either.
right, exactly.
Um, but unfortunately, social media is where a lot of young adults are getting their information from. And
Mhm.
I tell my students, use your critical thinking lens and ask yourself,
Yes.
if you get a news blip that says this is the greatest thing ever, it probably wasn't.
Right.
It's just hype to get you to click on the link. So,
Exactly, exactly.
Kara, there's a couple other questions I want to ask you before we
Yeah.
close today. But there's one thing I wanted to ask you is what has changed for you? I mean, who are you? Who is Cara Lockwood pre-cancer? Who's Cara Lockwood now? And how is
Yeah.
that your cancer treatment and your journey? How has that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I think, pre-cancer, I had a lot of insecurity that and uncertainty and, like a modern anxiety that we all have that we don't really focus on very much. We're so busy avoiding death that we can't, and I think being forced to deal with some of the scariest things I can think of, and then doing things that scared me anyway. I know I feel battle tested. I feel that um I got through this, I can get through pretty much anything. It's just a more confident core that I know that there are scary things. It's not like I'm not going to be scared if something bad happens, but it's that I can do things anyway, even if I'm scared,
Mhm.
'Cause I think, my younger self was worried about all the things we worry about, and then worry about how are you gonna meet a moment, and I felt like I did. So it's and now too, I feel like, some of the problems that used to be all-encompassing, how well is my book selling? What does my publisher think of it? Am I gonna get another contract? How's, Oh, all the kids are applying to college, all the things that are very nerve-wracking and, anxiety riddled. Now I'm like, well, it's not cancer. You know, it's not cancer. So, how scared or how bad is it really? So it did give me some perspective, I think.
Yeah, and I think it also shifted your perspective. And I'm a firm believer. Somebody could say, "Boy, what you went through really put things in perspective." And for me, well, putting things in perspective is nice, but changing your perspective would be even better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I feel at my core, if I hadn't gotten that mammogram, then I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah,
Like my time would be up, So I'm living on bonus time, really. But I realize that it's always been bonus time. We just tell ourselves that we think we get a certain amount of time, but we don't have any control over that. So it's all bonus time. So to me, I'm making the most of every minute. I really am writing like crazy, spending time with family and friends like crazy. I'm just not taking anything for granted because I realize it's all bonus time. We are all on bonus time.
that's right. Yeah, life can turn on a dime, and we never know which day is going to be our last. So we
Yeah.
might as I think there's it might have been an old Buddhist proverb that, if there was a little bird on your shoulder telling you today was your last day, how would you choose to live it?
Yes.
So it's like
Exactly.
live your life like that bird is on your shoulder every day.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Well, personally, Kara, I am glad that you are a cancer survivor
Me
because
too.
obviously you have a lot more to offer to the world, and the universe believes you have a lot more to offer to the world. But before we go, I'm going to give you a chance to plug yourself a little bit. Tell
Sure.
us tell us how my listeners can find out more about your books. Purchase There's No Good Book for This,
Yeah.
and find out what else is going on in your world.
Yeah. Well, the best place to go is Cara the author. So that's Cara with a C, Cara the author, one word.com. And you can find all of the books, this one and all of my romance books too. But there's no good book for this is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. There's an Audible. You can get in all kinds of forms, whatever you prefer. Yes, yay. And half the proceeds go to 25% go to Susan G. Komen and 25% go to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So I would like nothing more than to cure cancer and no one ever buy this book again. So that's my goal.
Yeah, that's a notable goal too. I would love to see a world where we're all cancer free and
Yeah.
cancer is no longer part of the equation. So
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great to read about it in the history books?
ab-
Yeah.
absolutely, instead of redefining history with it every day,
Yes.
we hear about another new cancer treatment or cancer journey. Like I said, yeah, I wish it could be a part of history. So and not part of our present or future. So, Kara, thank you so much for such a great conversation, taking time out of, I know it's got to be a busy schedule for you between writing and family.
Yeah.
Um, it was a pleasure, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
You're welcome. And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.